Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to demystify a condition that so many people just brush off as a headache. But as you'll see from the data, especially from the World Health Organization, migraines are a massive global health crisis that's pretty much hiding in plain sight.
So let's kick things off with a number that's, well, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. In 2021 alone, more than 3.1 billion people were affected by headache disorders. No, that's not a typo. Billion with a B. This isn't some niche problem. We're talking about a huge health issue that affects nearly 40% of the entire world.
And this quote from the WHO, it really gets to the heart of our whole explainer today. It's a pretty stark admission that even with those staggering numbers, this condition is just consistently underestimated and undertreated. So let's figure out why that is and what it's really costing all of us.
Okay, let's start unpacking that true impact. When we say migraines are more than just a headache, the data behind that claim is, well, it's pretty shocking.
This chart right here puts the severity into really sharp focus. We're looking at something called disability-adjusted life years, which is basically a measure of healthy years of life that are lost. And look where migraine is. It's not some minor issue down at the bottom of the list. It is the third leading cause of disability on the entire planet, trailing only stroke and a severe condition in newborns. I mean, that is just a stunning reality. And you know, beyond those huge global numbers, the personal cost is just devastating. As you can see, it can damage pretty much everything. Your relationships, your career, your finances. But then there's that invisible burden, that constant fear of when the next attack is coming, which, as you can imagine, dramatically increases the risk of anxiety and depression.
So what is actually going on inside the brain to cause this level of disruption? And what sets off these awful attacks in the first place? All right, let's dive into the science of it.
Now, while we don't know the single exact cause of a migraine, scientists have a very, very strong suspect. The leading theory is that it's a complex process that involves the release of these pain-producing inflammatory substances, and these substances then irritate the nerves and blood vessels in your head. So it's not just muscle tension, it's a full-blown neurological event.
What's really interesting is that for about a third of people who get migraines, the attack actually announces its arrival. It's something called an aura. And this isn't just a vague feeling, it's a very real, tangible warning sign. Things like visual disturbances or sensory changes that tells you an attack is about to happen.
So what kicks off this whole inflammatory cascade? Well, a lot of the time, it comes down to very specific personal triggers. And while things like alcohol, messed up sleep schedules, and certain foods are really common culprits, figuring out your own unique triggers is probably one of the most powerful steps you can take toward managing the condition.
Okay, so all of this builds up to the peak of the experience, the migraine attack itself. And this is where the symptoms become truly, truly disabling.
Right, so this is not just any old headache. It's a very specific checklist of symptoms. The pain is usually moderate to severe, often a throbbing, pulsating feeling on just one side of the head. Even something as simple as walking around makes it worse. And then it often brings friends, nausea, and this extreme sensitivity to light and sound that forces so many people to just retreat into a dark, quiet room for hours. And think about how long this can last. A single attack can go on for anywhere from a few hours to 3 full days. The sheer length of that time is a disabling factor all by itself. I mean, it can completely take someone out of their life for days at a time. So faced with that debilitating reality, what can actually be done about it? Let's talk about the pathways to relief. The good news is there is a whole toolkit for managing migraines. And the crucial point here is that effective care isn't just one thing. It's really a two-pronged attack. On one side, you've got your medical treatments, things like pain relievers, anti-nausea drugs, and even specific medications designed to either stop or prevent migraines. But on the other side, you have these proactive lifestyle changes, which are just as vital.
In fact, the WHO says these simple, consistent lifestyle adjustments can be incredibly effective. We're talking about the basics, right? Regular sleep, a healthy diet, and keeping a headache calendar to pinpoint your other triggers. For some people, this stuff can provide really significant relief, and it's a foundational part of managing the condition.
So finally, let's zoom out a bit and try to understand the bigger picture. If we have these effective treatments, why are so many people still suffering without any real help?
Well, there are some major systemic barriers. A lot of healthcare providers just lack specialized knowledge. The public often doesn't see it as a serious condition,
All that leads to really low consultation rates, which means many governments in turn completely underestimate the massive societal burden, from lost workdays to healthcare costs. It's a vicious cycle.
And this stat right here reveals a key takeaway that's honestly pretty concerning. An estimated half of all people with headache disorders are just trying to manage this complex neurological condition all on their own. They're self-treating, often without a proper diagnosis or access to the treatments that could actually help them.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought. Everything we've talked about today, the disability, the personal cost, the huge barriers to getting care, all of it is made worse by that one simple, dismissive phrase. So what could change? What could change in our healthcare systems, in our workplaces, even in our own families, if we all just finally agreed to stop calling it just a headache?